Imagine a world where the known earth stretched only as far as your sword could reach, where empires rose and fell on the whim of a single battle, and where legends were forged in the heat of ambition. Now, imagine a young man, barely out of his teens, looking at this vast, unconquered world and seeing not limits, but an invitation. This is the story of Alexander the Great, a tale so extraordinary it still echoes through the millennia, captivating audiences from ancient Greece to modern-day America. Our story begins not with a clash of steel, but with a whisper of prophecy. Born in 356 BC in Pella, the capital of Macedon, Alexander was no ordinary prince. His tutor was none other than the legendary philosopher Aristotle himself, who instilled in the boy a love for knowledge, strategy, and the epic tales of heroes like Achilles. But Alexander was destined for more than just philosophical debates. He was born to rule, and rule he did, ascending to the Macedonian throne at the tender age of 20 after his father, King Philip II, was assassinated. The young king inherited not just a kingdom, but a formidable, battle-hardened army and his father's dream of conquering the mighty Persian Empire, a colossal power that had dominated the East for centuries. Most would quail at such a task, but Alexander saw it as his destiny. His first astonishing act of leadership came not on a battlefield, but in the legendary tale of the Gordian Knot. According to prophecy, whoever could untie this incredibly intricate knot would rule all of Asia. Many had tried and failed. When Alexander was presented with the challenge, he didn't waste time with delicate fingers. He simply drew his sword and with one decisive stroke cut through the knot. It was a bold, unconventional move that perfectly encapsulated his approach to problems: direct, audacious, and utterly effective. This single act became a powerful symbol, signaling to the world that a new decisive leader had arrived. With the Gordian Knot untied, Alexander turned his gaze east, towards the Persian Empire, a vast dominion ruled by King Darius III. In 334 BC, Alexander led his relatively smaller but highly disciplined and motivated Macedonian army across the Hellespont, marking the beginning of one of history's most audacious campaigns. His soldiers adored him, not just for his strategic genius, but for his willingness to fight alongside them, sharing their hardships and leading from the front. He wasn't just a general, he was a warrior king, frequently plunging into the thick of battle, risking his life alongside his men. This courage earned their unwavering loyalty, a bond that would prove indispensable in the monumental struggles ahead. The Persian Empire was not conquered easily. Alexander faced Darius in a series of epic battles that are still studied in military academies today. At the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, despite being heavily outnumbered, Alexander orchestrated a brilliant flanking maneuver that shattered the Persian lines, forcing Darius to flee and leaving his family captured. Rather than treat them as spoils of war, Alexander showed surprising magnanimity, treating Darius's mother, wife, and daughters with respect, a move that gained him admiration even from his enemies. But the most astonishing victory came at the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. Here, Alexander faced Darius's full might, an army estimated to be over 200,000 strong, complete with war elephants and scythed chariots spread across a carefully chosen plain. Alexander, with his approximately 47,000 troops, employed a seemingly suicidal maneuver, drawing the Persian flanks wide, creating a gap in the center. He then personally led his elite companion cavalry in a wedge formation directly at Darius himself. The sheer audacity and precision of the charge broke the Persian center, and Darius fled once more, leading to a complete collapse of his army. Gaugamela was not just a battle, it was a masterclass in ancient warfare, cementing Alexander's reputation as perhaps the greatest military tactician of all time. After Gaugamela, the Persian Empire lay at Alexander's feet. He marched into Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, the glittering capitals of the ancient world. At Persepolis, a city of immense symbolic importance, Alexander reportedly burned the royal palace to the ground, an act debated by historians. Was it an act of vengeful destruction for the Persian invasions of Greece centuries earlier, or a calculated political statement? Regardless, it marked the end of an era and the dawn of a new one. Yet Alexander's ambition knew no bounds. He didn't stop at Persia. He pushed his army further east, into lands no Greek had ever seen, conquering parts of Central Asia and Afghanistan, founding cities like Alexandria, Eskate, Alexandria the furthest. His ultimate goal was India, the ends of the world. In 326 BC, he crossed the Indus River and faced King Porus, an Indian ruler who commanded war elephants at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. Despite fierce resistance and the terrifying power of the elephants, Alexander's tactical brilliance once again prevailed. He won the battle, but the heavy casualties and the sheer exhaustion of his army, who had been fighting for over a decade, finally forced his hand. His loyal soldiers, battered and weary, simply refused to go any further. It was the only time Alexander was truly defied by his men, and with a heavy heart, he agreed to turn back. The return journey was almost as perilous as the conquest itself, through the scorching deserts of Gedrosia, where thousands of his men perished from thirst and hunger. Alexander, however, endured every hardship alongside them, further solidifying his legendary status. When he finally reached Babylon in 323 BC, his mind was already churning with new plans, an invasion of Arabia, a naval expansion, and further administrative reforms. But fate had other plans for the young conqueror. In the summer of 323 BC, Alexander fell ill, possibly from malaria, typhoid, or even poison. After several days of agonizing fever, Alexander the Great, conqueror of the known world, died at the age of 32. His final words, or at least the most famous legend, were supposedly, "to the strongest," when asked who should inherit his vast empire. This ambiguity led to decades of brutal civil war among his generals, who carved up his empire into separate Hellenistic kingdoms. Alexander's legacy, however, transcended the fragmentation of his empire. He had effectively spread Greek culture, language, and ideas across 3 continents, ushering in the Hellenistic Age, an era of unprecedented cultural exchange and flourishing. Cities he founded, many named Alexandria, most famously in Egypt, became centers of learning and trade. His military tactics continue to inspire generals even today. His life was a whirlwind of conquest, an astonishing display of will, courage, and intellect that in a mere 13 years reshaped the ancient world forever. For American audiences, his story embodies the spirit of audacious ambition, strategic brilliance, and the relentless pursuit of a dream, however impossible it may seem. So the next time you hear the name Alexander the Great, remember not just a conqueror, but a visionary, a philosopher king, whose short, blazing life carved an indelible mark on the tapestry of human history. A true titan whose story remains as captivating and astonishing today as it was over 2 millennia ago. Which of Alexander's jaw-dropping conquests or strategic decisions do you find most astonishing? The audacity of cutting the Gordian Knot, the brilliant flank at Gaugamela, or the grueling march into India? Tell me which battle or historical figure from Alexander's life you want to explore next, and I can give you the detailed breakdown of the strategy, the drama, and the historical impact.